What's up, guys? This is Pat coming at you from the Pat Cave to talk about my first book ever. If you want to learn a little bit about me, about my writing, stick around. After this, we are going to get into it. So the year is 2005, I want to say. I started writing my first book not long after I moved to Redding, which was around 2004. I moved up here from down by LA, moved up with my mom, and when I moved here, I didn't have many friends, had a lot of time on my hands, and when I was younger, I used to write little stories here and there, and I'd always written a story about a town that was kind of haunted, like a little, almost like a mining town sort of thing. And I sort of thought about that idea more as I got older. And when I moved up here, I just one day started writing a story, and it just kept snowballing until it turned into my first book. I wrote it, I think it took maybe 6 months, maybe 7 months. Might have even been longer. Could have been shorter. But either way, I actually printed out a copy back in the day. I even wrote a little song for it, some sheet music. That was kind of be the movie theme, you know, if it ever had happened. But yeah, and this was the very first version that I'd printed out, and printed it at my mom's house. I'm sure she loved that. Used up all her ink. But yeah, it was about 90,000 words, and that's the very first copy I ever printed. And then I want to say that I sent in the first. There was a company called Leisure Horror back then, and they used to sell little trade or mass market paperbacks. And I had followed their guidelines, and you had to print out maybe like 10 pages, your first chapter, and then, you know, mail it in a sealed envelope to this company, this publishing company. And then, you know, months went by. Eventually, they sent me a letter back saying, "Oh, thanks, but no thanks." And I think that kind of crushed my spirit a little. In retrospect, you know, for anyone that wants to write or is thinking about writing anything, it's very difficult to break into publishing, you know, traditional publishing. So if that happens, just keep going until you get there, and you'll do it. Persistence is key. I've heard that, and it's true, based on my experience anyway. But fast forward to 2017, and I can't remember, I want to say someone at my work had told me about a book someone they knew had published, and I had heard about something called CreateSpace, and that's no longer around either. But back then, that was a kind of way to get your work out there, get it on Amazon. People can buy your book. You can design your own covers, do all that stuff. And I was like, oh wow, there's actually a means to do this now without having to go through publishers, which, you know, is great. The best part about having an actual publisher is that they market all your stuff for you. You don't have to do any of the work. You don't have to pay for the editing, any of that, which is wonderful, but it's a time-consuming process. Sometimes it takes years and years to get out one book. As some of my friends know, it can take a long time. And if you don't mind waiting, that's the way to go for sure. But I kind of like the idea of having control over things more so. I did have a book that was going to be published by a company more traditionally, and I didn't like where it was going, so I left that place. I ended up getting my book ready, edited, and this was it. This was my very first book that I released, Dante's Town of Terror, which is part of the Grey World universe. And it has a GTO on the front, 1970 GTO, and it's, I'll read you a little synopsis on the back. This isn't available anymore. I'm planning to release this in the third book when it finally comes out as an omnibus. Omnibus? Is that how you pronounce that? But I'm going to release all three of those in one version for the people that have been asking me over and over about the third book. I know I'm turning into that author that did Game of Thrones, who's been working on his book for 20 years. But here's a little synopsis. Bill, Brian, and Kathy had the perfect camping trip planned. It was supposed to be a weekend filled with good friends and healing, but when an unexpected collision with fate leaves them stranded deep in the wilderness, they find a deserted town not listed on any map. Somewhere time doesn't exist and nothing seems quite right. Somewhere no one ever leaves and insidious things wait in the dark. When they meet a desperate man searching for his lost love and a suspiciously prepared stranger, they are forced to work together to find an escape. A vacation soon becomes a fight for survival, and a mysterious figure from Bill's past returns, and the true nature of the town is revealed. And it's pretty apparent the influence of where this book came from. You know, The Mist, Aliens, all those movies. Some of my favorite horror films, Silent Hill, it's almost like a mishmash of all those different movies kind of put together. I Am Legend, everything that I love about horror kind of condensed into one series. I would check those out if you're interested in that kind of thing. I mean, obviously you can't now because they're not for sale anymore, but if you're able to find one secondhand, I would grab one. And yeah, this was my very first book. I'm still proud of it now, even now. You know, my writing, I feel like it's one of those things where, you know, I wrote this originally when I hadn't even went to college yet, and, you know, which shows in this. If you went back and read this and then read my newer stuff, it's fairly obvious how much I've grown as a writer. At least I like to think I have. There's something special about your first book, and, you know, a lot of people that I know, these were their favorites of the books that I've written. My new ones are connected. Every one of my books is connected to one another. They don't have to be read to, you know, in any, it's not necessary. Like if you're going to read the second one of these, Dante's Wicked World, then you definitely need to read this one first, because otherwise you're not going to know what's going on. They're all the same characters and stuff. But my other books are more like standalone novels, but they are interconnected. And I'm working on the third book. I've written about 5-6 chapters. You know, I outline all my books. It's part of my process. I go through, list, you know, all the chapters, list the events that are going to happen. Rest assured, it will be finished though. I'm going to make sure it gets done. I released this book. I've done a signing for this one over at Barnes & Noble before, and it was a lot of fun. A lot of people were supportive of that. So one thing people don't warn you about is that when you are an author, you're usually not prepared. You know, it's great when people say, "Oh, I love your books. That's great. They're wonderful. They're the best," you know. Usually your mom, your girlfriend, people, friends are going to tell you that. You only really hear what people really think of your books when you get people that are unbiased. So people off NetGalley, Goodreads, stuff like that. And most of the time, those I think are great feedback to get just because they're unbiased. So here's the thing. When you write a book, nobody really prepares you for what happens when you get your first bad review. Some people hated it, and I remember my very first review for this, my first review ever, was someone on Amazon, and they just, I can't even remember what it said. I'm glad I forgot. It was not very nice. And it hurts a little, it stings, those 1-star reviews, when people are unnecessarily brutal. It is what it is. Sometimes there's constructive criticism. Most of the time there is. And that's always good as a writer. You know, you can grow from those things, learn from them, get better, hopefully, in most people's cases. So this was the very first one I did, and then I did a special edition of this also. Let me grab that really quick. So this was the special edition. My friend Ross did the cover for this, and yeah, there we go. This was, I think I only made 10 of these, and it was signed. This one you can see was, hopefully that's in focus there. Yeah, number 5 of 10. And just something with limited art. It kind of had like a comic book style, sort of how I imagine a movie poster might look. Yeah, some of these characters kind of look a little like certain actors you might notice. Yeah. But these are pretty rare. Only less than 10 people have these because I've got 2 of them here. One of them is for Ross, and I didn't forget about you. I still have it here. I'm going to send that to you once the shipping rates go down for Tasmania. Hopefully that sheds some light on my first experience with writing. Yeah, like I said, it's not available anymore to buy, and to tell you the truth, I really need to go through it and kind of re-edit it. I just feel like it needs to be brought up to date. This one's kind of out of date at this point. And it's, I guess it's a collector's item now. Hopefully I'll have a new version of that in the next couple of years here. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And thanks for coming to hang out with me for a little while. Hope you guys have a good weekend.